Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I'm going to give you my sort of first impressions of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, it needs to be said that I will be talking about things that are probably going to be spoilers. I haven't decided whether I'm going to just use footage from that game or just Breath of the Wild footage for this video. We'll see what happens at the end result. But yes, I want to give you my first impressions. Probably coming up to about 10 hours, I reckon, of gameplay, and just kind of tell you how I'm feeling about it. So first off, this is like putting on a pair of slippers, this game, because when I played Breath of the Wild, I got super invested, went around doing a lot of stuff, and when this game opened up and gave me the freedom to kind of just do my own thing, straight back to it. Went around doing my own thing, sneaking around, looking around the map, all good stuff, and like I said, we're going to get into spoilers, so we'll start with that right now. Two things that return from Breath of the Wild are shrines and the towers that show up the map. I am kind of surprised they brought the towers back. They do serve two purposes this time. One being give you the map. They are in different locations to the other towers last time. Secondly, allows you to shoot up into the air and get back into the sky in some areas, or just allow you to fly in other areas, which is pretty cool. But the shrines are back, and this is a massive positive for me. I didn't know if they would bring them back, and they have. And I love the shrines in the first one. I'm very much thinking that these shrines in this new game are, in some aspects, more difficult. But also, some of the puzzles are just clicking with me as well. So I think they're harder. I can't be sure. But I like what they're doing with the shrines. They are by far one of my favourite things about Breath of the Wild. I'm sure they will be my favourite things about Tears of the Kingdom by the time I get to the end of it. So, shrines, massive plus. It seems like a lot of them because they're now in the sky as well. They're not just on the ground, so you have to go looking for them in multiple places. But I will say they seem a bit more clever this time around. They definitely feel like they're placed, like anytime there's like a town, any place there's a stable, any of these sort of places, there's usually a shrine nearby as a fast travel, which is great. Like, really smart thinking. In terms of the sort of gameplay loop, it does feel like there is some sort of improvements in certain areas. The game itself feels hard, and that might just be the way I've tried to tackle some things. Now, I'm the kind of person that goes around, increases my stamina over my health, and I've been doing that because I like the ability to be able to climb around quicker, run further, all that good stuff, rather than health, which means I do die in combat pretty quickly. But I pretty much maxed out, or very close to maxing out, my stamina, so I'll just be focusing on health now. But the actual gameplay loop feels a bit more refined. I don't think you're scrambling in weird situations so much anymore. There's obviously the old mechanics as well, like your horses. You can do stuff on foot. You can build vehicles in this, which definitely help. I think that's kind of fun. But it feels like the Breath of the Wild loop, but like improvements in little ways, lots of quality of life changes, things like that really. That just sort of make the game feel fun to play and just a little bit easier. For example, I don't remember this because I haven't played Breath of the Wild in such a long time, but the statue that you go to like level up, I think it was only in at the Temple of Time, and I could be wrong, I could be misremembering that. But now you can level up at pretty much any town. There's a statue there, but that might well have been in Breath of the Wild. I just don't remember. But yeah, there's other quality of life stuff. Like, you know, if you open a chest now, you don't have to like go to your inventory and drop it. Your inventory will pop up. You can drop the item you don't want and just take the one from the chest, which is really cool. Stuff like that. So there's just a lot of little things in this game that help with the improvement. I will say that probably one negative thing for me. Like, one, I'm enjoying running around Hyrule and exploring the Sky Islands. There's some amazing Sky Island puzzles. One thing I don't like is the new starting area, and you start on a giant, probably the biggest Sky Island, I think. And it's not like Breath of the Wild. It's a lot more linear in the terms of, like, you just go here, and then off you go. It's just really hard to navigate in some aspects. I know the whole point of it is to teach you a lot of things that you can do, but I really, up until that point, I wasn't really enjoying the game that much. I was like, yeah, I've done all this, like, you've taken away my skills and abilities, and now you're making me run around like crazy. I mean, it does teach you how to play the game, and for newcomers it's going to be great, but for people that have played Breath of the Wild, you know what to expect, and it's just like frustrating that you can't get around that initial area quicker, which is unfortunate, but there we go. That's one gripe I have with the game. The story so far, I won't talk up too much on this. I'll just say I think the story is more involved, but we will see. They are using similar mechanics to the first game to explore story, but I don't know where it's going to go and how it's going to go, and whether a lot of the stuff that was shown in the trailers is more, whether that's beginning, middle, or end of the game. I have no clue. So all I can say is I'm kind of enjoying the other plots that are going on around the map. You know, you have to revisit the areas, and there's just crazy stuff going on, and that's cool. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. I get to re-see these characters, see what they're doing in the world, figure out their plights and things, and that's fun. And obviously the big things in this game are the new powers and new abilities that you have. So the Ultra Hand is incredibly useful, and it's just an extension of Magnesis, essentially. You know, in this case, you just pick anything up, like it's a log or a box, and you can just slap it together. You can make flying machines, you can make vehicles, you can make all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's awesome. I think that's one of the biggest things about this game, is that kind of creativity. I have bodge jobbed so many puzzles with these powers. It's nuts. So you've got the Ultra Hand, you've got Ascend, which is the one that lets you shoot up through certain buildings and pop out the top. Surprisingly, has quite a creative use in the game, but it's also probably the one that I always forget about the most. But it is a useful tool, because you can get up, like, you can get through caves very quickly. You can get through platforms and stuff, you know, and it works very well. It's a very thought out thing, mechanic, sorry, and it is also obviously quality of life in terms of, hey, you scaled this thing once, you don't need to scale it again if you've already got it. Then you've got Fuse, which is probably one of the more interesting ones, which is allowing you to fuse an item to your weapon or shield. I haven't really used it on the shield, but on the weapons it's super cool. The fact that you can, like, turn a sword into a hammer, kind of thing. You can fuse some really dumb stuff. I accidentally fused a wooden crate to my sword. Doesn't really help. It just gives it +1 damage, but it does look funny. And you can kind of do that with a lot of stuff in the environment. You can probably fuse, I haven't tried it, but you can probably fuse a log to, like, a sword or an axe or something, which is kind of cool. But yeah, probably this skill that's got a hell of a lot of utility. I just haven't used it nearly as much as I probably should, but it will make combat a lot easier. Like, I picked up a spiky ball and stuck it on a stick, and then it was like, well, this thing does like triple the damage now. And then the other one is Recall, which is just a rewind ability. I say just a rewind ability. It's a very, very useful ability, actually, Recall. You can do some interesting puzzles with it, both in shrines, on the overworld. I have cheesed a couple of things with it to complete puzzles, which I really like. I think that's my favourite power out of all of them, just because it's fun to, like, move stuff in the world that's going backwards while you're still going forward. So all in all, the powers are actually really, really fun. I think they've done a good job mixing them up. I will say I do kind of miss bombs, but they have an alternative for bombs in this. But it was nice being able to just whip out a bomb whenever you needed it to, like, shoot someone off a cliff or something. But yeah, to my knowledge, I mean, I don't know. You might get that later on. I have no clue. But as of right now, I haven't come across that. But you know what? Despite my enjoyment of this game, despite re-seeing Hyrule, using these new powers, like the skydiving stuff's really cool, the Sky Islands, there's a lot here that's really nice. I am very much enjoying this game, but it doesn't feel as different as maybe I wanted it to Breath of the Wild. Obviously, this is a sequel. It's going to feel similar, and that's fine. Like, it's totally fine to be similar. I like what they're doing in this game. Don't get the wrong idea that I'm not sat here saying this is a bad game. I'm really enjoying it, but I think maybe I was expecting more differences, and that might come later on in the game. Right? There are some things that are different to Breath of the Wild, but on the whole, it feels the same. Like, walking around Hyrule, that made sense. Kind of gathered that'd be the same. But I kind of feel like because the way I play, so in Breath of the Wild, I was like, right, I'm going to get all the towers, I'm going to get as many shrines as I can. That's what I'm currently doing now. Been mainly avoiding the quests that I've got to do. Until now, I finally started to do like a proper quest. And now it gave me that realization that yes, stuff has changed. There's probably a lot of changes in this world, but a lot is still the same. And it makes me just think, it's like, yeah, I'm glad they took the time with it. I'm glad this game's come out when it has. it is going to be fun, but I can't sit here and say this is vastly different to Breath of the Wild as I thought it might be. And again, this is just first impressions. It might change in the mid game and in the end game where I think crazy things happen. I don't know yet, but as of right now, I'm like, hey, this is really fun to jump back into. But I think maybe I'm missing something. Like, where's the extra sauce? Currently, it's not necessarily there. Like, the Sky Islands might be it, which is fine. I'm enjoying that. I haven't done any, like, many of the cavern stuff. There's caverns underneath Hyrule now. I haven't really touched that, so maybe that's the thing I need to go and do. But I am just maybe not disappointed, but maybe just not. I'm a little bit surprised that it isn't more different. I do like the fact that in game time, stuff has moved on. People have grown older, towns are more fleshed out. There's all this stuff that's happened, and it's like, this is really awesome to see. But when you're running around like over some of the mountains and things like that, and it's like, wow, I've done this before, it does kind of lose the impact it once had. Now, saying that, there's a very good chance by the end of this game that I might think it's better than Breath of the Wild. I don't know until I finish the game on that one, but it is nice to go back into this world and play on it. As somebody who Breath of the Wild basically made a Zelda fan, it's really nice for me because this is more of what I wanted. But I understand this isn't going to be for everybody. This game, it's a lot to do with creativity more than anything else. It's like, what crazy things can you do in the world? I've seen a couple of absolutely bonkers things, and just learning all of that. There's a lot to learn in this game, and that's going to take probably about 50 hours before I kind of get the hang of it. But all in all, it's a very solid game. Right now, this is the kind of game that I'm like, yep, I would recommend, but I'm not. This isn't gonna be up there in terms of like, oh my god, like best thing ever. I don't know that until I finish the game. I will come back and do another video on this when I finished it. But first impressions are good. Yes, the starting area isn't great, but once you get that freedom, and there's a lot of quests to do, which is cool. So if you get bored of exploring, you've got plenty of things you can be doing, and yeah, you're just gonna have a fun time with it. The game is very fun, and that's probably the biggest praise I can give it. It's very fun. The things you can do are absolutely nuts, and that's great. And I'm really enjoying it. So there you go. There's my first impressions of Tears of the Kingdom. Like I said, I'll be back at some point in the future when I finish the game to do another video on it and see how I feel, see how it compares to Breath of the Wild. But until then, thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.